All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the some commentary on our February 6th reading. And so we start out today, and Moses, through God's leadership, leads the people of God to Sinai. They're in the Sinai desert, and they're on their way to Mount Sinai. And it says right away in verse 2, the whole community of Israel complained about Moses and Aaron. And it's interesting, here the Lord brings them out of, excuse me, out of Egypt. The Lord is definitely leading. You see the miraculous hand of God with at the Red Sea, parts the Red Sea, destroys the armies of Egypt, brings them through to the other side. I mean, hits Egypt with 10 plagues. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. No doubt in anyone's mind that it is God that has done this and is leading. And yet, the moment that they hit some difficulties, they begin to complain against their earthly leaders, Moses and Aaron. So they've got complaints about God and the way that He's directing, but they take it out on the earthly leaders that God has instituted. As one who has led the church now for 30 something years, um, boy, I see this often where God leads in people's lives and God is leading them. But the moment that their creature comforts are shuffled up a little bit, it's too many times what happens when we, you know, when we have expectations that God is going to supply for us. He's going to lead us, but the journey to where He's leading us gets a little bit harder than what we expect, i.e., we're hungry, we're thirsty, those things that we desire. We move quickly to kind of just be complaining about circumstances, and this is just a warning. I mean, and all of us are prone to this. So we're just gonna kind of really soak this thing in. It's really important for us to deepen our walk with God, that we can just be a little bit peace. Doesn't mean that we aren't disrupted. Doesn't mean that we always like the circumstances, or that we won't have moments that we are thirsty for something or hungry for something. And I'm not just about physical food. I mean, it might be other things, but maybe we need to begin to deepen our walk with God to where in those times when we are going without something that we desire, that we can maybe use that time as almost kind of a fast unto the Lord. That's what a fast is, right? When a person fasts from food, they are purposely doing without food, doing without water, so that they can be stretching their resolve. They're stretching their spiritual muscles to trust God beyond their creature comforts. And that's why I encourage you to practice fasting, and not just practice fasting from food, but maybe even living a little bit more lean instead of getting everything we want. Training ourselves in righteousness, training ourselves to trust God and to lean more on God and to be hungrier for God than what we are for other things. And that's what we're seeing with Moses. The people get there and what is it? They're yearning. They're yearning the things that they used to have, right? They say to Moses, hey, at least back in Egypt, we had pots of meat and we sat around and we had all of this. And Moses is like, yeah, well, you were slaves. And God's leading you, and God's got a promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and it's going to be the most incredible thing. But between now and then, you might have to stretch a little bit. And that's the reality for all of us, right? Like, we know that we've got heaven coming, and heaven is truly going to be glorious. It's our promised land, and we know it's going to be great. But that doesn't mean that we get everything now. We don't get the fruits of the promised land now. And so part of the reason why God gives us even the instruction about tithing and things like that, this is training. We need that. It's not that God needs our money. God can raise up all of the money in the world. And don't use that excuse. Well, then he doesn't need mine. Because no, he's trying to get your heart. He's trying to get your heart. And anybody who's teaching, oh no, tithing is not a biblical thing anymore, they don't get it. They don't understand, because tithing is scriptural from beginning to very end. I mean, we saw that with Abraham, right? Abraham, when he had this incredible success, the very first record of tithing isn't in the New Testament, it's in the Old Testament. Abraham gives Melchizedek a tithe of everything, a tenth of everything. And all the way through Scripture, God's trying to teach us this value of, listen, don't let things be owned by you, and you know, don't let things own you, own your heart. Don't let the creature comforts of your life, like, be the thing that. Don't become like the Israelites. You know, be more than that. Treasure God. Train yourself to not let those things and the expectations of, like, I've got to have all of these things, in my life in order for me to be happy, in order for me to have peace, or in order for me to believe that God is moving in my life, because that's not true. God's moving in their life, and they had moments of hunger, they had moments of thirst, but it doesn't mean that God wasn't there, and it doesn't mean that God wasn't going to supply, because God was going to supply, and God did supply. He gave them manna, He gave them quail, and so it's interesting. Moses said, "You do understand, when you're complaining, you're not complaining against me or against Aaron. You're complaining against the Lord." And friends, we've got to be really careful. I've got to be really careful. And I mean this. I've got to be very careful. Like, be careful about complaining about something, um, because you might just find yourself really complaining against the Lord, because the Lord is leading you. And if He leads you into lean times, those are times to to let yourself grow in trust and appreciation for the God who has led you out of Egypt. Right? He's leading you out of Egypt. And don't lose sight of that, because He didn't give you the job you wanted, or He didn't give you the car that you wanted, or He didn't lead you in to the place right now with all of the fruits of the things that you want, or the fruits of the things that, like, your neighbors have. I mean, that's why Scripture teaches us that one of these great terrible sins that infects our heart is coveting. It's one of the 10 commandments. You don't covet. And why is that so important? It's because it begins to create this sickness in our heart, and a lack of appreciation for all that God has given to us, and it impacts our hearts, and it creates this rift inside of us that's not God's fault, it's ours. And so this is a really important lesson for us to learn, and to understand that, be careful about, train yourself, okay? Give up more for God. Not because you're trying to earn your salvation. That's not what I'm talking about. Because you want to appreciate God and love God, and learn to trust God, even in times when, in the lean times, the in between times, between blessings, right? And so I just want to encourage you to do that. And then another important lesson. It's interesting, isn't it? Because again, look at, we get to learn from God's people, and so He gives them the manna, and then He instructs them of, like, how much to gather, what to do with it, and they don't follow His instructions. Again, I kind of just I look at that, and I wonder how many. I mean, listen. We gotta put a mirror up in front of our faces, and see. I mean, like, God tells us to, again, I go back to this reality of, what the Scripture says, because this is about resources, right? And the things that they're getting, and it's interesting. You go into the New Testament, and the Scripture tells us that, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is going to be. Also, it talks about sowing and reaping and all of these very important lessons. And again, this is God trying to help us to really understand what it means to be the Lord's people, what it means to be to really follow him, to trust him, and to see his hand at work in our lives. And so they, instead of gathering 2 days worth on the day before the Sabbath, and then on the Sabbath not going back out to gather, what do? They go and they go back out on the Sabbath day, and it's not there. Or when they did gather, they gathered more than what they were supposed to, and it turned to maggots. And again, I think that there's some really important lessons for us to learn, right? Of like, what's God speaking to you these days about, like, where are you really at with the resources that God has given to you each and every day, the supply that He gives. Are you gathering up too much? Is it turning to maggots? Is it becoming more important than having faith? Is it replacing faith in God? Is it not enough to gather enough on the day before the Sabbath, so that you're not having to go work on the Sabbath, so that you can, are you really Sabbathing with God and resting in Him and taking a day that's special unto the Lord? I mean, all of these things are tied in together, and these are important lessons for us as the people of God, because these are our prototypes, right? This is all us watching this grand testing of people and the realities of what happens as we walk with God, and God supplies the things that we need, and us wanting more, or wanting to do with the resources what we want to do instead of what God tells us to do. And folks, we got some very, very important lessons that we need to learn. And that's why, even Scripture tells us the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And so I just want to encourage you, listen, let yourself in 2026 really lean into this. I've seen many, many people who God wanted to do deeper things with them, but they ended up, kind of, really kind of recoiling against God, and like, no, I'm not gonna. This is where I draw the line, and so I just want to encourage you. The Lord He's good to us, and He supplies everything that we need when we need it, um, in just the right time. And He's got measurements that He uses. And what does it profit of man if he gains the entire world and loses his soul? So trust Him. It's interesting when you go to the water from the rock. Again, they just start complaining against Moses in that regard, and God gives them him instruction of, like, again, out of a rock the Lord can bring the things that need to refresh our soul. Okay, so He is the one that can refresh our soul. He is the one that does refresh our soul, and so trust in Him for that. Okay, and I would love to spend some more time. We can break down Jethro's visit to Moses. Some great leadership lessons there, but I think we're going to call it a day, because I think that God's got some really important lessons that He wanted to teach us in regard to letting Him lead you in this journey, letting yourself learn how to live a little lean, so that you can really go deeper in your relationship with God, making sure that your relationship with God is more than an inch thin, an inch deep. Go deeper with Him, and let yourself be stretched as you trust in Him. Think of some practical ways of what that looks like. What does it mean for me to really, just trust God, and to not be owned by my possessions, or even the expectations that I have that can just really, harm my walk with God. All right. Thank you so much for spending today with me. I hope you enjoyed the commentary. This is all good. God is doing a great work. In the same way that he was doing a work in the Israelites, he's doing a work in us. We are the people of God, and he's leading us to the promised land. And thank God we've all been invited to come along for the journey. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.